Alright, welcome back, guys. We've not done this in a while, so I figured we would pick up and continue digging through the hip-hop CD collection. Last time we were talking about Jedi Mind Tricks. I think we left off with the Stoop album. So it only makes sense to pick up with Army of the Pharaohs, the Tortured Papers. For me, this came out at the perfect time in my life. I was a teenager, I was really into the backpack hardcore scene, and this is just a who's who of the hardcore underground at that time. Apathy, King Size, Celph Titled, Vinny Paz, Esoteric, Chief Kamachi's on here. Just anybody and everybody from that scene that you could want shows up. The production on this is all great, and for me, this is a personal classic. I think, especially if you were around at that time, this album gave you everything you wanted. I think it still holds up really well, especially if you're a fan of battle rap, punchline rap, hardcore hip-hop. I think you can't go wrong with this one. I would highly recommend that first Army of the Pharaohs album. The second one wasn't nearly as good, but it was notable because I believe this was when Just Allah reconnected with Jedi Mind Tricks. So I believe there's some Just Allah verses on here. Again, it wasn't as good. The production wasn't as good. The rapping was a little stale at that point. It's still worth checking out, but that first album pretty much gave you everything you needed. The same could be said about the follow-ups. This is the perfect case of diminished returns. The production is less good, the rapping is more and more stale. They're not bad albums, but at some point the whole punchline hardcore hip-hop thing it kind of got tired, and these just sound like they were made because they were expected to be made. They're still solid releases. There's nothing truly bad about them, but I can't highly recommend them. King Size was notable because early in his career, he was being compared a lot to Big Pun, and I think that did him a great disservice. I don't think there's a rapper out there worthy of being compared to Big Pun. I do think King Size is a competent rapper. Oddly enough, I just listened to this album yesterday, maybe the day before, randomly. It's a really good album. It holds up really well. The production is great. King Size is a good rapper. Guest features from Reef the Lost Cause, Vinny Paz is on there, Block McCloud, Pumpkinhead. It's a good album. King Size is a good rapper, but he never should have been compared to Big Pun. I think that was really kind of what fucked him over. Outer Space. These were the first Jedi Mind Tricks affiliates I ever listened to. I wasn't a huge fan of their music. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I think they have solid production. I think their rapping's okay. I just find Outer Space to be somewhat unremarkable. This was a surprising one just because the production on this album, this is Dope Nixon, the production on this album was so fucking unbelievably good, way better than you would expect it to be. Dope is a solid rapper, but the beats really carry this album. I think this one is worth checking out just to hear the production alone. 7L and Esoteric, The Sole Purpose, straight out of Boston. I'm not a huge fan of Esoteric's solo work. Obviously, I'm saying solo in the terms of, 7L is his producer, Esoteric is the rapper. I think Esoteric is a very competent rapper. I think he can excel on tracks, and I think his guest features are usually incredible. Listening to him for a full album has never really been my thing. I picked this up back in the day specifically because it had that speaking real words with Inspector Deck, and being the huge Wu-Tang fan I am, I had to hear that. I know a lot of people love this album, especially if you're into the old solid boom bap gangstar style music. For me, Esoteric just never really connected as a solo MC, but this is a solid album. A New Dope was notable because I believe it was made after the beef with Def Jux. Esoteric and LP were going back and forth. And then they released this album, which was much more experimental and sounded like it wanted to be a Def Jux album. I remember when I bought this, I absolutely hated it. I've listened to it maybe twice since then, and it's actually pretty high on my list of albums I want to revisit at some point. but I just remember the production on this being absolutely terrible. So it'll be interesting to go back to that one. Now this one was kind of dope because it sampled a bunch of Japanese music and flipped this. That's the concept that ties this together, flipping a bunch of Japanese samples. Comes with a bonus disc, which I believe contains the original samples. But I thought the concept was solid enough that it could float that project. And even if I wasn't a huge Esoteric fan, I'm still a fan of interesting concepts, and I think this one absolutely delivered on that. Czarface and MF Doom. This is Esoteric and Inspect a Deck. And even if I'm not a huge Esoteric fan, I think when you pair him with somebody and he has somebody to bounce off of, he really shines. I think the same is true for Deck. I think when you get Deck with another good rapper, he elevates. And this really just delivers on pretty much everything you would want from either of them. And then you throw MF Doom into the mix, and it's great. I wish there was more Doom verses on there, but I think what he does contribute is absolutely fantastic. And I think that's a really good album. Celph Titled, The Catalog. This is a 4-disc collection of pretty much everything Celph Titled had done up to this point, everything he had produced for, featured on. The guest list on here is just fucking insane. Redman, Apathy, Esoteric, a lot of the Jedi Mind Tricks affiliates you would expect. But the production on this thing is fucking incredible. It's 4 discs, and each and every disc is really, really dope. Like, the fact that you could put out a 4-disc album and you don't have to skip any of the music, I think it really speaks to the quality of music that Celph Titled has. This one is an essential release for fans of underground music. I think you absolutely have to check that one out. And then, when Celph released the solo album proper, he teamed up with Buckwild, and this is an underground classic if ever there was one. The concept behind this one is all the beats are beats that Buckwild had produced in the 90s that nobody had used. Celph Titled came through, snatched them up, did his thing. If you're a fan of Celph, you know it's funny, punchline driven rap, a lot of absurd lyrics, but he's a great, great rhymer, and the production on this one is just fucking phenomenal. The fact that these beats were made in the 90s and nobody wanted to use them blows my fucking mind. And this was the companion piece. This was all the instrumentals from that first album, and then some remixes and leftover tracks, and that is just as good. I think if you're going to listen to one, you need to listen to the other. Absolutely worth checking out. Now here's a slept on one. The Boss Hog Barbarians was J-Zone and Celph Titled, and this album has a track on it. Let's see if we can find it. Was it called Self-Destruction? Right there. Celph Titled absolutely blacks the fuck out on this. If you've never heard that song, go on YouTube right now, pull that song up. Celph Titled has the fucking performance of his career on that. It's worth listening to for that alone. This one is an underground classic. I think a lot of people slept on it. J-Zone, an incredible producer, very competent rapper. He's very funny. That was kind of his whole shtick, was just being like, just really playing into the character of what it meant to be a rapper. He takes a lot of the cliches and kind of cranks them up to 11. The reality is, J-Zone, by his own admission, is a humble, not very successful artist at this point, at least. But you would never know that listening to the music. He's got a lot of great albums. J-Zone Remix Project. There is one album in here specifically I would like to recommend to everybody, though, and that is right here. To Love a Hooker, the motion picture soundtrack and instrumental album from J-Zone. I think this one went over a lot of people's heads. J-Zone basically produced this as a soundtrack to a movie that doesn't actually exist. But for fans of instrumental hip-hop, a lot of people slept on this one. I would highly recommend you seek this one out. It is definitely worth listening to. Lewis Logic. I've never really took too deep a dive into Lewis Logic's work outside of what he did with the Demigodz. I do enjoy him as a rapper. I think he is also very funny. He has a great sense of humor. I've just never really gone that deep with his music. But the first time I ever heard him was on this little EP here, the Demigodz Earplug Series number 2, The Gods Must Be Crazy, which this did get re-released way later on, years later. This was my introduction to the Demigodz, though. This was the first time I heard Celph, the first time I heard Apathy. 7 songs, they're all essential. This is a great release. I played the fuck out of this little EP when it came out. This was Killmatic, the full-length release from the Demigodz. Years in the making. This is a really solid album, some great features. Ari the Rugged Man's on there, Terminology's on there. This album pretty much gives you everything you want from a Demigodz release. A lot of great hardcore rapping, a lot of humor tucked in there, some really great production. This one I haven't listened to in a while. I remember when it came out, it took me forever to track it down. And when I did finally find it, I actually really didn't like it. I don't remember what it was that rubbed me the wrong way, but something about this never clicked with me. I'll have to go back and revisit it at some point, but I do like the cover though. I think it's dope. Apathy, Eastern Philosophy. This was supposed to be his major label release back when he had signed with a major. He couldn't really gain any traction from there. They didn't know what to do with him as a rapper. Apathy is a very hardcore lyricist who focuses a lot on the craft. He's a very good rapper. I just don't think they could find the commercial appeal with him, and he eventually ended up going to, who was his, Baby Grand? Baby Grand put that out. That's a great album for a debut album, an official debut album. He's had many projects before this, but that's a solid album. I think all of Apathy's material, for the most part, is really solid. He's a very good rapper. I've always appreciated his respect for the craft of rapping. Honky Kong. It's a great album title. I've always loved the artwork on that one. This one didn't blow me away. I listened to it not that long ago. I thought it was okay. But an album that did impress me was when Apathy linked up with OC. And I think this is an incredible record. I cannot recommend this enough. I think hearing OC brought over some more modern beats, especially the kind of beats that Apathy likes to rap over. And just hearing Apathy have somebody to spar with. Just 2 incredible rappers rapping over some flawless production. It's not that long, which is perfect. You know, most albums are too bloated, but this is one of those rare albums that will actually leave you wanting more. Chief Kamachi, Cult Status. This is a really dark album. This was the album that made me a fan of Kamachi. Took me forever to track it down, but when I finally found it, I absolutely loved it. I thought it was perfect, just everything you want from Kamachi. He followed that up. Well, we won't skip ahead. We'll do it. That's Chief Kamachi and the Juju Mob. You see Reef, Lost Causes in there. This is a really good album too. This is another one that I don't think it was slept on when it came out, but over the years I do believe it's been forgotten about. But this is an incredible release if you ever stumble across that. But this album really disappointed me. I remember being very hyped for it, and I remember getting it, and it just sounded kind of cheap. I thought the production was lacking. It definitely could have been a lot better. So that was disappointing. That's King Size's second album, which is just tucked away in here out of order, which would be why it wasn't up front. This one also had really good production. You know, now that I'm thinking about it, maybe I'm confusing this second King Size album with that dope Nixon album. One of them had really incredible beats. I'm pretty sure it had some Blue Sky, Black Death beats. It might have been this album. I'm gonna have to look into that later. Either way, I do remember this being a solid album, unless I'm confusing it with another album. You know what? We're gonna throw that up there so I can put that where it goes. Reef the Lost Cause, Feast or Famine, excuse me. Classic underground album. I remember seeing this one brought up on the UGG message boards all the time back in the day. Yeah, it's just really good. Reef was such a good rapper. This was just such a solid album. Gives you everything you want from him. If you check out one Reef the Lost Cause album, this is the one to aim for. Reef the Lost Cause vs. Guns and Butter, Fight Music. This one was okay. I didn't think the production was all that good on it. I listened to it a few times, threw it on a shelf, never went back to it. I'd have to revisit it, but yeah, I don't remember liking that one very much. Now we're gonna get into some oddities. Savage Brothers, The Iron Fist, Snow Goons Presents. I don't remember liking this one that much. This felt like a lot of D-list kind of Jedi Mind Tricks knockoff. I haven't gone back to it in a while. Virtuoso's on there, Chief Kamachi's on there, Rusty Jux is on there. Maybe I gotta revisit this one, but I don't remember this one being all that spectacular. These ones are kind of interesting because I got these all in a bundle together. This is the Lost Children of Babylon. I got all three of these together specifically because when they released their third album, which was this right here, one of the websites I used to read back then, I think it might have been Rap Reviews, gave it a perfect 10, and they talked about how good it was, this incredible album. I remember me and my buddy both picking it up, listening to it, and thinking it sounded like a Jedi Mind Tricks Wu-Tang knockoff. And I would say that about all three of their albums. I haven't listened to them in probably 20 years, but I just remember at the time of their release, I was not super impressed by it. And this was another one of those random underground albums. Society of Invisibles. This sounded very much like when Jedi Mind Tricks came out. There were so many other groups out there that tried to sound like that early Jedi Mind Tricks music. Especially, you know, like the Wu-Tang Clan, like they tried to ape that Wu-Tang Jedi Mind Trick sound. This is one of those cases. I don't think it was bad. I'd have to revisit this one too. I have not had the urge to go back to it, but this was another one of those one and dones. I listened to it, I shelved it, I never went back to it. But that does wrap up another shelf. Looks like later on we're going to be getting into the DITC music, which is going to be great. There's so many good albums over there. At some point, I'll do another video catching you guys up on everything that I filled the shelf out with. And I do have some more written content on the way. So I appreciate you guys for sticking with me and checking this out. And till next time.